Amen. Excuse me. Okay, so I want to just jump right into this. But before I just want to share a little story. See, a long time ago, in a land far, far away, in a place that I like to call before we had kids. Some of you have been there. In a place we like to call before we had kids, Rachel and I, every once in a while, we used to go to this amazing store that no longer exists called Blockbuster Video. And I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It was a wonderful place. But one of our favorite things to do when we first got married and before we had kids was, and not that I regret having kids, I'm not listening to sound bad, I love my children, but before we had kids, one of our favorite things to do a lot of times was just chill at the house with a bucket of popcorn and a movie. And at some point, it became, there's this TV series that became really popular, and this is a long time ago. But this show became really popular, and so one particular night we went to Blockbuster. We rented the whole season on a Friday, and on a Friday night we started watching season 1 of the show called 24. And I don't know if you remember that show, but it was an amazing show. And this one particular night we started watching season 1 of 24, and like from the beginning, we were in hook, line, and sinker, and that was so we're watching the series. We started on a Friday night, and we watched almost the whole series, all the way through Friday night, all the way through Saturday, until we got to the last DVD. And we went through the whole thing, all the ups and downs, all the twists and turns of this story. And then when we got to the last DVD, we put it in, and it wouldn't play. And I don't know if you've ever seen this, but like the whole point of it is like every episode ends on this big like climactic thing, you know. And it's like you get to this big moment and then it just ends, and you got to get the next thing. So we put the DVD in and it wouldn't play, and we pulled it out and it was all scratched up. And I don't know if you remember this beautiful gift that Blockbuster would give you from time to time, but sometimes they would just be jacked up discs, you know, they just wouldn't work. And so you know, we try to clean it and try to fix it and try to make it work, and nothing would work. So we get in the car and we run back to Blockbuster, and they were out. Every single set of the 24 DVDs was rented out. And so we were stuck going through the entire weekend wondering what was next. Trying to figure out, was David Palmer going to be okay? Was he going to become the president? What would happen? A few of you may have seen that. But we were spent the whole weekend just trying to figure out what was next, trying to guess what would happen next, where the story would go from there, how it would all unfold, how it would all end. And we ended up thinking, like having this long conversation about if we were the ones writing the story, what we would change, how we would have done it differently. I think, when we were preparing for this message, we were talking about if we could do our own story differently, if we could change some things about our own story. Imagine you're watching the movie of your life, and you get to the point where you're at right now, and it's this big moment, and you're right in the middle of a valley, or you're right at this mountaintop, and all of a sudden it stops. And it just says, so where do you want to go from here? Imagine you're reading this book of your life, and you're going through the whole things, and all of a sudden you get to this point, you've gone through all the ups and downs and all the twists and turns of your story, and you get to the point where you're at right now, and then every page from here on out is just a blank page. Thousands of blank pages. But the good news is this is your story. And you can write it however you want. You can keep on doing the things you're doing, or you can do something differently. What if somehow there was this eraser that you could go back and change a couple things? Would anybody here like to amend a couple things from your own story? I know I would. What if you could do this? What if you could call out to God and say, God, will you meet me here, right where I'm at, right in the middle of this place that I'm at, and help me write the rest of this thing so I know I can do it the right way? That would be pretty great. Here's the good news. You can, and you can. Yes, and amen. I believe God would like nothing more than to meet you right at this place in your story with all of this life ahead of you, and be who He says He is, the author and finisher of your faith. In Hebrews 12, 1-2, it says, "Therefore, since we have so great a cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us lay aside every encumbrance and the sin which so easily entangles us, and let us run with endurance the race that's set before us, fixing our eyes on Jesus." Fixing our eyes on Jesus, the author and the perfecter of our faith. Over the next few weeks, I want to take a look at the work of Jesus, the author and the perfecter of you. And I want to talk about one of the most powerful gifts that He gives you. One of the most powerful gifts that Jesus gives you. And that's your story. Your story. See, regardless of what's on the previous pages of our story, regardless of what's behind us, we have a whole lot of blank pages ahead of us, and that, my friends, is a gift. We can change. We can change. And if we do, we change our story. If we change what's ahead of us, it totally changes the way we perceive our past. Those things that were meant to kill us can be the very thing, the very moment that we come to life. See, regardless of what's on the previous pages of our story, regardless of what's behind us, we have a whole lot of blank pages ahead of us. Our brokenness can become a story of what we have overcome. Our failures can become a story of how we've learned to achieve greater things. An empty past can be filled up. And what's written about our tomorrow can be this legacy for others to follow. God is in the business of taking a broken past and turning it into a victory for what's ahead. Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him." No one writes and amends our story the way Jesus does. And I want to ask you, do you know Him as the author and finisher of your story? I want you to know Him that way. Today I want to take some time and introduce you to Jesus, the author and perfecter of your story. I want you to know Him like this. I want you to know Jesus as the author of redemption. Jesus is the author of redemption. He came to amend your story, not only to turn around the story of humanity, but you specifically, each one of you specifically. He didn't just come for everyone, but He came for everyone specifically. He came for you, and He came for you, not just for everyone, but everyone individually. He came to meet you in your story, right where you are, and lead you forward. Right in the mess, and turn the mess into a victory. Where your story's flawed and broken, He came to amend it, to change it, to redeem it. He's here for you. He's here for you. He's the author of redemption. I want you to write something down. I don't know if you got a piece of paper or in your Bible or wherever you want to write, but I want you to write this down. I want you to write this. I came here for you. I love you, and I won't give up on you. I came here for you. I love you, and I won't give up on you. And I want you to sign at the bottom, to sign Jesus. This is the gospel in a sentence. I pray that every time you see that you're reminded that Jesus is the author of redemption. He came here to redeem you from your past. He came here to redeem you from what's broken and turn what's broken to good. He's here to redeem you, to restore you, to make you new, to give you hope, to amend your story. He's the author of redemption. You know what happens when sometimes my kids will wake up in the middle of the night and they'll be scared or they'll have a bad dream or whatever it is, and they'll just yell, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy," and I'll run to their room. Mm-hmm. I'll run to meet them where they are. That's what God does for us. He meets us in our story, regardless of where it is, regardless of what it looks like. He meets us in our story, and He pulls us out of what's broken. It's the author of redemption. Ephesians 1:7 says, in Him we have redemption through His blood, through forgiveness of sins, in accordance with the riches of God's grace. He's the author of redemption. You know, when we look at a masterpiece in literature, we don't consider that this is a finished product, a perfected product. We don't see the work and the blood, sweat, and tears and the time and the erasing mistakes and the writing and rewriting and all the things that go into that to pull that story to life. That's how stories are made, right? That's how stories are written. And that's the truth about most of our stories. And if we know Jesus as the author and finisher, if we know Him as the author of our story, then we understand that, or we know that He knows that there's work to be done. That there's some stuff to sort out. He knows that we stumble sometimes. That we're a work in progress, but there's great news for us. There's great news for us because Jesus isn't just the Redeemer. He didn't just meet us in that moment and save us. But He walks out every day with us. He has mercy for every moment of our life. He is the author of new mercy. He's the author of the grace that you need right now. Every day Jesus offers a fresh new page for you to write on. God's mercy is new every morning. Jesus came to earth and He took this giant eraser called the cross and He said, when you stumble, look to me and ask for forgiveness. And the moment you ask, it'll be granted to you. He said, the moment you stumble, you look to Him and He says, I forgive you. I forgive you. You're forgiven. You don't have to carry that anymore. Today's a blank canvas to paint on. It's a fresh start. His mercy is new right now. And when you wake up in the morning, it'll be new again. And when you call on Him, His forgiveness is here now. It's the author of new mercy. Lamentations 3:22-23 says, the faithful love of God never ends. His mercies never cease. Great is His faithfulness. His mercies begin afresh every morning. Have you ever thought about that? The hundreds, the thousands, the tens of thousands of days that God has given you in your life, that Jesus says, every one of those days, I'm going to give you mercy for it. I'm going to give you grace to make it through. I'm going to give you what you need. I'm going to give you forgiveness where you stumble. And I'm going to give you blessings to encourage you forward. It's amazing. The judge of history and humanity says you have permission to start again. And again. And again. He says it's better to get up than to stay down. And tomorrow tomorrow can be the brand new start of the rest of your life. Again. That's His mercy. He meets us in our story and He redeems us. He saves us from the mess we're in. And then He gives us mercy for every moment of the rest of our life. He gives us the grace and the blessing we need to proceed through every moment of the rest of our life. But not only that, but He gives us hope for what's ahead. He gives us hope for the future. He's got a plan for us. See, Jesus is the author of tomorrow's hope. Because tomorrow you're going to wake up and life will start again. And you have all these pages to write in. Do you believe that He's going to give you the hope you need to write them? Albert Einstein said, learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow. I think that's great. But I think one better. Our hope for tomorrow is Jesus. Our hope for tomorrow is Him. Can I tell you something? When you wake up in the morning, work is still going to be there. The tests and trials are still going to be there. You'll still have to work through some storms from time to time. But through it all, you have hope in Jesus. Tomorrow when you wake up, you're going to have a choice of how you're going to proceed with your day, with your years, with your life. Will you react to the troubles? Will you react to the storms? Or will you trust Jesus through it all? Will you put your hope in Him? 2 Corinthians 4:16-18 says, don't lose heart. Though outwardly we feel like we're wasting away, inwardly